let's lastly just talk about this. The elephant in the room a little bit, at least for progressives. I bring this up first. Let me just say, I am glad Kamala Harris is the nominee. I don't know that we could have gotten any other nominee who I may have thought was been better, in terms of where their politics are. I don't think we could have gotten a better one with a better chance to win because of the process, of how it all went down. But one of the things that as progressives we want to do is not get it caught up in the way that we did with Obama. This is my feeling, because everybody thought Obama was going to be this, sort of progressive bastion. And on day one, nobody rang this clarion call more than you did. He wanted to cut Social Security. It feels like yesterday, but it was 2008. I remember when you would cite that interview from January when he would talk about entitlement reform. I mean, I remember this 16 years later, Heather, like you were talking about this. And so, what I'm seeing with like the pushback from some corners on the Lena Khan stuff, because they're coming for Lena Khan.
Yeah, I know.
And now she has disavowed the jobs guarantee she ran on in 2020. She has disavowed Medicare for All, which she ran on in 2020. She's disavowed the fracking ban. Now, to be fair, I don't know that there was a lot of people who were excited about her pick that knew that she had these positions in the first place. But I guess the point is there is a real fear that she is going to return to the sort of neoliberalism that we saw from Obama, because Joe Biden, regardless of of what happened on a foreign policy standpoint, he changed the nature of democratic politics.
Yes.
At least in many ways, it was, a return. What do progressives do right now with this, sort of like dual mandate? Like we're all like the Fed, like, unemployment and inflation and this and that.
Right.
And they secretly only care about inflation in my estimation. But what do we do with this sort of like this tension between, I think it is absolutely essential that Donald Trump lose. Absolutely essential. What is the right perspective in which to engage Harris on these things, and the perspective that, like, how do you maintain enthusiasm on one hand so you can defeat Donald Trump, but also keep in foreground, like, we got work to do here.
Absolutely. Well, I think, honestly, one of the great benefits that we have is that there isn't very much time left. So a lot of this argument there's just not enough time to really hash it out. So we're all stuck with this situation here where we're going to have to make this decision. Are we just going to go all in and just, take it on faith or whatever, that she is going to, follow more in the Joe Biden model, which is kind of surprising us with liberal and progressive policies that maybe we didn't expect? Or is she going to be Obama, where it's a big disappointment because he's trying to compromise with Republicans? I tend to think, and I'm trying not to be too optimistic. And as you say, I think I have some credibility, because in the Obama period, I was kind of, ooh, wait a minute, don't everybody get too excited here. We need to organize ourselves because there's something happening. I actually think that Kamala Harris has come up more in the Biden period as a politician. What I see is the growth in her over the past 4 years is pretty profound. Just as a politician, I think seeing the Democratic Party that Joe Biden has created under him, I think has had influence on her. And I know her pretty well because I'm from California. So I watched her as a California politician for years when she came up, as the Attorney General and then the Senate. And, I actually saw her speak in person for the Senate campaign and stuff. And she's different now. And I think that growth, and maybe I'm making the wrong assumption here, I think she is making some practical decisions in the face of Donald Trump to take certain things off the table in this very truncated campaign that would cause, could cause some trouble in a very close election. She's trying to sort of say, look, and I'm not saying that she's lying necessarily, because I think, especially if I think about something like fracking, it seems like that's kind of changed in the Democratic Party. I haven't heard much about it anyway, and maybe there's a new consensus that I'm unaware of. But as far as her progressive, bona fides, I think that she has become more progressive, but has become a more savvy politician about how to sell progressive policies. That's my guess. And I don't think any of us should take it for granted, because it could go the opposite. She could get in there and be like Obama and say, hey, let's work with the Republicans, or,
Right.
decide that there's some, that she's going to do. Like, his thing was, I'm so popular that I can do a grand bargain and everybody will come out win-win, which we all knew was BS, right? I mean, we were going, no, have you met the Republicans? That's not going to happen. Maybe she thinks she can do that. I'm not getting that sense, but it's possible, and we're going to have to keep a very close eye on it. But I do think that she will give an ear to progressive policies and to progressive politics in a way that probably Obama wouldn't. And I think that's because she saw what Joe Biden was able to accomplish during those 4 years. That's my guess. Maybe I'm being too Pollyanna-ish, but I'm hoping that that's how it goes, and we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. In the meantime, I think that like, and I don't know that there's been other things I've ever really felt can be this effective with so little, but this fight over Lena Khan,
Yep.
I think is much bigger than it appears.
Mm-hmm.
At least in terms of like where the direction of politics, like in another 3 or 4 years of Lena Khan at the FTC,
Absolutely.
and it will change the behavior of businesses
I think
to the
Gary
point,
Gensler too. I think those are the kinds of things that
100%.
are just super. Keep your eyes on those
8
things.
years of a
Yep.
specific trajectory has such broad implications.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I just remember 8 years of George Bush. Like, it
Yep.
took until the end of the Obama administration before like things were even like remotely close
Yep.
to back to where they were, but they weren't even. And so you can really change the trajectory for 30, 40 years with
Mm-hmm.
an 8-year sort of administration here. And simultaneously, the way that administrations, particularly new administrations, make these determinations is we only have X amount of resources
Mm-hmm.
in terms of time, in terms of energy, in terms of political capital and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going to expend the effort,
Yes.
and where
Yes.
are we not?
Yep.
And so much of this becomes, how much of a headache would it be to fire Lena Khan?
Yep.
Like, what would you get after you've been elected, right? Like, it's one thing to like go, to Reid
Yep.
Hoffman, like, hey, I'm not going to say anything. But after you've been elected,
Right.
where all of a sudden, raising that money in this
Mm-hmm.
cycle, not necessarily as important. What's more important is like, you're not expending the political capital you have
Yep.
as a nascent administration on something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, from my perspective, like, locking in the gains we've made with Joe Biden is absolutely essential. And the more that people, like,
Absolutely.
I really think, like, if Josh Shapiro is not the VP pick, it will be because there were people on Twitter and Facebook and polling
No
saying,
doubt about it. No doubt
you're
about
going to
it.
create a problem for
No
yourself to
doubt.
pick this guy.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, it's much easier to say,
Mm-hmm.
this is radioactive, as opposed to this is something you should do. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
you may not get Walz, but you can sort of say, like, picking Shapiro is just going to be a headache. It's going to be a
Yeah.
headache. So whatever
Is
benefit you
it
think you're going to
worth
get.
it to you?
Yeah,
Is it worth
exactly.
it to you to pick this fight? And I don't, we're no longer in the era of the sister soldiering or seeing the advantage of picking fights with the left. I really think that era is gone. I mean, I look at a politician like AOC, who I truly revere. I mean, I have to say, even with the whole thing that happened with Joe Biden, there was a lot of, dissension, in the coalition over her stance and the other members of the squad on that. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it made perfect sense for her to be one saying, you know, look,
I
we're
agree.
standing behind the president. We're just going to do this thing. Let somebody else, let Nancy Pelosi take the heat on that. Let
Yeah.
her be the one to be doing that stuff. Don't go trying to push out Joe Biden. But that's because, I mean, these people are smart, Sam. They are so smart, and they're politically savvy. It's just as you put it, and I hadn't really thought of it in these terms. It's a new generation, and they've also come up in a different period of politics. And by the way, you know, I mean, I'm old and you're getting old, but you know, we've
I'm
been
old.
around. You know, we've been around for a long time, but we've been doing this for a while. And this stuff that we've been doing on when the internet came along and we started doing our thing was pushing the party towards this. And finally, we have new politicians out there who came of political age during the period where people were saying, you know, we're not, I mean, I'm old enough to remember the McGovern race. I mean, I was still a kid, but I remember it. And, you know, we're not subject to that. That's not who we were. And now I think this new generation doesn't even know what that is. So this is good news. And I kind of think Harris, she's going to be 60 when she's inaugurated if she wins. That's just about the right age for this particular generational transition. She's Gen X. God knows Gen X has been waiting in the wings long enough.
Sure
so,
have.
You know, it's time. It is time.
Heather Parton, Digby, always a pleasure. We'll, of course, link to all your pieces at Salon and at Hullabaloo. Thanks so much. And we'll see you soon. It's going to be...
Oh, it could be fun.
Hopefully it turns out well, but it's definitely going to be funner than it would have been.
Yes, whatever it is.
Without a doubt. Thank you, Heather. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Talk to you later.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.